Hi, everyone. Welcome to our new show, Pathways to Knowledge. Many people know a lot of facts, but most people don't know how to use those facts and put them into true knowledge. We found through the years that some of the most intelligent people we've channeled have used the facts that they've learned to prove God doesn't exist. Well, they were in for a very big shock when they got back to heaven because he truly does. And he watches what we do and he listens to our words. We bring you this show every week. We used to do Hello Heaven at this time slot, but we've decided to do a new format. We're asking more specific questions, and we're trying to use them to give you context as to history. Because if you learn history, then you will truly know and be prepared for what's going to happen into the future. So tell your friends about this show. I think you're going to enjoy it. Tonight, or whatever it is going to be very interesting. We're going to channel with President Jimmy Carter. President Carter was president when all of this stuff, and I'm using a polite word, in Iran began. The mullahs took over our embassy, held our guys, a bunch of our prisoners. I think it was 444 days. And it threw a real curveball at his presidency. So today we're going to channel him. We'll have a lot of questions about what's going on in Iran, about his presidency, and about him in general. So, as you know, Connie has vision problems. And our friend Elena has been kind enough to fill in for her. So we're going to bring her in now. So Elena, welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you?
Good. And just for information for you listeners, this is the first time we're trying to do this remotely. So Elena is at her place, I'm at mine, and I think everything's going to go well. So Elena, I know that President Carter's here, so why don't we get started?
Would you like to begin with an opening statement, President Carter?
Absolutely. Have you ever heard of a politician who has not wanted to speak when they get the chance? And this is the first time I've been able to talk since I've come to heaven. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I truly appreciate it. I would like everyone to understand that my presidency probably could have been better. I had a lot of problems. I thought I knew how to handle them, but as you can see, that is what is taking place in the Middle East. Events can get out of hand very rapidly. And it's very, very difficult to predict the Middle East. You're dealing with religious orders that think that other religions, such as Christianity, should not exist. You're dealing with members of a faith where they even fight among themselves with the Sunni and Shia. So the Middle East is very difficult, and it threw me a huge curveball, just as Barry said. And what took place during my presidency has had incredibly lasting effects in that you're seeing that a war has now become necessary in order to remove them as rulers. The Iranian people are wonderful people. The Shah was a good person. He was an American patriot, but we feared that there would be communist influences. And I would fear today that if the mullahs are taken from power, that Russia will come in and try to take the place of the democracies of the world. The world was very complicated when I was president. Russia was the big terror, and they're trying to make themselves the big terror again. I don't envy President Trump with all the problems that he's facing. I think that he is trying to do his best, but I'm not sure any one person can really handle all of the complexities that is taking place in the world today. So it's very difficult times. In many ways, I'm glad I'm not president right now because I'm not sure I would have the right answers either. Everything is turning on a dime. It is very critical that people return to God. I always had a strong faith, and I used it to base what I was hoping would be the right decisions. So thank you once again for having me. I know you have some questions that might cause me a little embarrassment, but that's fine. I'm looking forward to doing this. So Elena, if you want to begin with your questions.
Sure. You brought up religion. You were a firm believer in God. What role did your religious belief play during your term as president?
I always tried to do what I felt was right. I never, believe it or not, even though I was a Democrat and a politician, I tried to make decisions that were in line with my faith. I always loved God. I always believed him. And after I was out of the presidency, I did all I could to still serve him through the rest of my life. I always tried to follow the golden rule. But when you are in charge, it can be very, very difficult. The times were difficult, as I said in my opening statement. The Cold War, we had a long history with the Shah, and we had to make some decisions because we thought the Iranian people needed to be protected. Sadly, the decisions were wrong. We all made bad decisions. And as God says, you're expected to make bad decisions in your life. But sadly, when you're president, bad decisions have long-lasting effects. So I did try to do what was right. I tried to do what was in my heart, and I prayed. I prayed for guidance. Sometimes I think that I would go against the guidance, and quite often I found out that that was not the best thing to do. But faith played a huge role in my presidency. I wish that I had made some other decisions. I wish that I had listened to some guidances. But when you're in that role, things are happening so fast that you truly don't know when you're receiving messages and guidance and when you're not. So I'm not making decisions, but I will tell you that faith played a huge role.
What were your primary goals and reasoning behind your handling of the late 1970s economic crisis, specifically the rampant inflation and the energy shortages?
I knew that what was taking place was destroying the middle class of America and people that were in the lower income structures. I felt that it was an area of economics that was unique to the times. There had been stagflation in the past. In the early 1900s, the country had faced it, and it had devastated almost 10 years of country history. I knew that we had to try to take strong actions. Increasing the interest rate was going to destroy the construction industry, people that relied on it. But we knew really no other way to get controls. We had tried other things. We had tried stimulants. We had tried putting money, injecting money into the economy, and all those things just made it worse. So we came to the conclusion that increasing interest rates radically would be the only answer. Many people were hurt in the short run, but in the long run, it did pay off. I alienated many people by what we did trying to get control, but sadly, it was the only thing we could do. We knew we would hurt people in the short run, and I knew that Keynes had said that we all die in the short run, but it was the long run that we had to look at, and my popularity took a nosedive because of the things we did, but we had to get control, and it was a very difficult time.
Did the administration have any contacts, deals, or agreements with the Ayatollah Khomeini during his exile in France before the Islamic Republic was established?
Our agents had contacted him. We felt that the Shah was gradually losing control and was starting to do some things we didn't agree with. So we did contact Khomeini. He assured us that he would continue American policies. He lied to us. There's no other way to describe it. We knew we were taking a chance. We did not realize, and the CIA did not realize, just how much he was misleading us. His history did not indicate just how bad or how radical he was going to become. So yes, we did have contact with him. He misled us, and that was part of what happened after they took control.
In January of 1979, there was a meeting held in Guadeloupe between the United States, the United Kingdom, France, and Germany. Was the overthrow of the Shah of Iran discussed at that conference?
We discussed the fact that we feared that communism was going to become stronger in Iran. We did not want such a violent overthrow to take place. We thought that the people would be able to bring in a democratic government. We did not support Khomeini coming in. We thought that he would remain in the background. We knew that he would be influencing the future government, but we did not realize that he was going to come in, have a violent overthrow, take over our people, hold them hostage. If we had understood what the true intent was, we would have strengthened the Shah and kept him in power. We had basic control over him because we had a lot of control over the economy of Iran. Had we understood the terrible events that were going to take place and how it would have affected the future, we would not have made some decisions that we made. But we did feel at the time that the Shah potentially represented a risk that the communists would come in and take over the country. What happened was just as bad as if communism had come in, because communism eventually failed. The mullahs only gained strength through the years, sadly. So it was one of the decisions that I wish we had to make over.
So then, did the United States have an active role in the overthrow of the Shah?
I would describe it as an inactive role. We gave some support to political groups. We had hoped that they would be able to work with the Shah. We knew that he was an ally, and we knew that by not having him in Iran, we would be losing an ally. We thought that we could have political groups come in, cooperate with the Shah, and literally strengthen him so that communism, the Communist Party, did not come in and take over the country. At that time, Iranian oil was very, very important. And we knew that Russia had oil, but we still, at that time, were not sufficient. So we did many things that we thought would help strengthen our position, but they all failed.
Do you have any regrets concerning the steps you took as president?
Yes. I wish that I had strengthened the Shah instead of trying to affect what he was doing. Our efforts turned out to be very negative. And when the Shah was overthrown and the mullahs took over, we lost all basic control in the country. That was a major mistake that I made. When we tried to, we waited too long to try to free the hostages. We should have gone in immediately while they were very weak we had military in the area that we could have gone in with. But I waited. I thought that diplomacy would work, that we could get them back. They obviously did not fear what we were telling them we would do. I should have gone in much more rapidly, and I should have affected. And when we went in, we should have probably gone in with the military and assisted the people to overthrow the mullahs. But keep in mind, the mullahs had very wide popular support when they took over. Religious fervor was something that we could not deal with. And we made a series of bad choices. I paid for it when I ran for re-election. I wish that we had been more aggressive in the economy more rapidly. But we were trying to maintain our political popularity and cure the economy at the same time. So it was a very difficult time. I'm not making excuses, but from the choices that I was given, I made a series of mistakes that I should not have made.
You had said that there was a fear that Iran might fall under communism that influenced your decision to topple the Shah. Was there anything else that pushed you over the edge to contribute to the toppling?
The fear of communism was the main thing that we had with him. He was buying items from us. He was trading with us. We were getting oil from the country. And we figured that if the communists took over, we would lose all of that. And it was going to throw us into a terrible, terrible problem. We had had high gasoline prices, and we were trying to defend the price of oil that it did not become so extreme. I truly wish that I had taken a different position with the Shah. The Shah had gained much power in the country and felt that we were trying to unduly influence him in certain directions. We could have handled it differently. That's about the best spin that I can put upon it.
When you first learned that the Americans had been taken hostage at the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, what went through your mind in that moment as president?
I knew that I'd made a mistake. I knew that a hostage situation was going to have bad, terrible publicity effects upon us. I immediately conferred with the military to see if they thought that there was any way that we could immediately cure the situation. At the time of the overthrow, the mullahs had gained great political support from the populace. I do not believe that the people, the democratic people in Iran, thought things would go so badly, so rapidly. There was a large movement to reduce American and Eastern control in the Muslim country. I wish that I had listened to the military, but we feared that there would be a lot of collateral damage, that people would support and fight against us if we came in, and affected who was taking over the government. There were individuals that wanted me to go in and overthrow the mullahs, and I felt that would have very, very bad effects long term on our relationships in the country. I thought that we could negotiate. I thought that perhaps we could give them benefits that would cause them to release the hostages, continue to deal with us. It was a very, very difficult time for me as president. I was torn in many directions. And as you can see, I should have reacted differently. Sometimes the greatest problem can be inaction. I should have reacted violently to what they did to us. I should have used the military and used our agents in the country to squash the takeover. I guess in some ways, my belief in God made me a bit of a pacifist. So I did not want to get into a hot war in the Middle East. I knew that was going to be very, very difficult. Had I gone in, I'm not sure what the effect would have been. But I know that the actions I took contributed to many problems.
So during the 444 days that the Americans were held hostage at the embassy, how did you maintain focus and leadership while the entire country was watching and waiting?
It was very difficult. Keep in mind that we had the Cold War. We had many things going on at the same time. We had the economy we were trying to fight. We had gas supply problems. I had, and I still feel that I had, very good advisors, but they were overwhelmed as well by all the problems that were taking place. I believe that the thing that kept me stable through that period was truly my belief in God. I prayed often for guidance and support. And in many ways, we were successful. But in many ways, I also made mistakes. The totality of events was almost overwhelming for me. But I had good advisors. They gave me professional advice. And I was given all the information that was needed to make decisions. How I made the decisions, I thought that I was doing it through prayer and consultation. Sometimes I was right, and sadly, sometimes I was wrong.
What was the specific threshold for authorizing the military rescue mission after months of diplomacy?
My advisors told me they saw no way that negotiations were going to get the hostages back. I knew that if I did not make an attempt, the American people were going to be incredibly upset. I wanted to run for a second term as president because I wanted more time to try to bring my policies into fruition. I realized time was running out. My military advisors told me that they felt that they could pull this off. They advised me that it was going to be difficult, that there were many risks. But I was running out of time. I knew that if I was going to do anything, that it had to take place in a very short time span before the election. So I ordered them to go ahead. I know I don't believe in luck, but events took place that made the attempt a disaster, and it harmed me even more with the American people.
Did you at the time, and as you look back from heaven, have any regrets over ordering the mission to rescue the hostages?
No, I actually thought in my mind that we could pull it off. I did not realize that an accident was going to affect the whole thing and destroy it. So I still believe that if they had been able to go through with the mission, they would have been successful. So as I look back, I don't have any doubts that I should have at least attempted to get our people out of there.
What was the most difficult decision you had to make while serving as president?
I think the mission to try to get our hostages, we talked for weeks about the best way to do it. I had the military make the best plan they could make. They trained the men for it. We took all the steps. But they also informed me that they thought it was at best a 50-50 chance. I took the chance, and when it failed, it was very hard on me.
If you were president today, would you have ordered a military strike on Iran?
That's a very, very difficult question. The situation has changed so much in the animosity with Iran, with Israel. I think that had I been president, I would have pushed harder for political change during the first military effort last year. I think that was the opportunity where we could have gone in and truly destroyed the political operation. Time worked against the people. The timing of the uprising in the streets was very poor. The United States was not in a position at that time that they could support the uprising properly. And the mullahs reacted violently by killing tens of thousands of their own people. But they took the heart out of the popular uprising. Many of the leaders were killed, and the leaders are still being executed. So now Israel knew that it would not be long until they had a nuclear weapon. Israel also knew that they would use it against them, and Israel would have no choice but to use their weapons, their nuclear weapons back against Iran. So the choice was made whether to do a conventional war now or to wait until Iran took the first shot and then destroy them with nuclear weapons. So it became obvious that the clock had ticked out. Former presidents had pushed this decision off and kicked the can down the road. I think that I would have actually been forced through the events to take the same basic action that President Trump took. But I think that if I was president, I would have tried diplomacy, but I would have taken more major steps during the first military action. I believe that that was when they would have had the best chance to go in. The time between the first and second action allowed Iran to reinforce themselves militarily. I think that if the surprise attack during the first event would have been much more effective. Now I'm not sure President Trump really has any choices. He has got to try to overthrow the mullahs. They are destroying the leadership. They're doing everything they can. The downside is it's going to take a lot more time and a lot more effort than anybody believed. The people in Iran would love to overthrow the government. They are not armed, and the military police is still maintaining control. So until the people are armed and are ready to take action, and until the men that are in the military, until they start to desert and do not enforce the violence against the people, then the people will be able to come in and take over. But that is an event that I do not see in the very near future. It's going to be a very difficult time for the people of Iran. And it's going to be a very difficult time for the United States and Israel. Russia and China have supported Iran by giving them weapons and technologies. And these are all going to have to be destroyed. And as Israel and the United States are finding out, it's going to be a more difficult task than they ever believed it would be. Eleanor?
You had stated that you believe that the hostage crisis ultimately led to the loss of the 1980 election to Ronald Reagan. Is there anything that you could have done differently politically or diplomatically?
I think if I would have acted immediately, if I would have gone in and used the military to handle the situation, it would have been resolved, and there would have been a period of time since that, between the resolution of what would have taken place and the election. The people did not support many of my actions and ideas, so I think I would have still lost. But I do believe that I would have had a better chance had I gone in immediately and taken out and rescued the hostages.
What is your view on the legality of circumventing Congress to fund foreign operations, such as what happened in the Iran-Contra, or for that matter, President Trump's Operation Epic Fury?
During my time, the legislature exerted much more control over the presidency than they have in recent times. I firmly believe that the legislature must be the ones that declare war. I think that President Trump got caught between the proverbial rock and a hard place. He didn't have the support to declare war on Iran, and the American people wanted no parts of it. But he also had information about Iran getting the nuclear weapon, and it was something he knew was going to be a disaster. He acted in a way that he felt was the only way he could go to solve this problem. There will be a time that he will have to go to Congress to get the authority to continue the war. Sadly, I think it is going to go longer than any of them anticipated. And the American people are going to have to make the choice if they want to support a longer-term military action or to just simply declare victory, walk away from it, and face it in 8 to 10 years. So it's a very difficult time. I hope that Congress decides to support him in this action. Many of the presidents did not have the nerve or the powers to face this. Trump is doing what he thinks is necessary. If all goes well, he will be a hero. If the war stretches into years, he will be considered a failure. If the war stretches into the time that the American people truly want it to end, it will end. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that I would have been forced to take similar action.
Why did you feel it was necessary to sign the Department of Education Organization Act in 1979, splitting it into its own cabinet-level department?
I thought that education of the young was one of the most important things that could take place for the longevity of our country. Sadly, politics entered into the Department of Education. I wanted it to be a cabinet-level position so that I could have closer control over the department and determine how the Department of Education would function in the future. In the short run, that was an excellent idea in my mind. But the bureaucracy that developed in the Department of Education has made many, many problems for the children of our country. If you look at how education in the United States ranks with other countries, you will see that the Department of Education has not done its job. So I did it so that it would strengthen education, but the effect has actually not been what I wanted it to be.
On that note, what is your opinion as to President Trump trying to eliminate the Department of Education?
I don't think it should be eliminated, but I believe that steps should be taken to make the department advance on a path that guarantees the education and the improvement in the educational system in the country. In order to do that, I think that he has to reduce the size to make it more manageable and make sure that it does not become the bureaucracy that has destroyed the educational system in this country. He can do it through reducing size. We will see what happens if he truly does eliminate it. In many ways, I believe that perhaps it is better to leave education to the individual states, but they still will need federal support. The individual states do not have the funding that is required to make the educational system what it should be. But I think that if there's a mechanism set up to properly fund the states, that the states can, at this time, do a better job. If you look at the teachers' unions that have taken over education, you will see that in many instances they become radicalized. So I believe that the states would do a better job of influencing the unions as well.
Do you believe that large-scale attacks like Epic Fury could provoke retaliation that could escalate into a broader war in the Middle East? And how would you compare that to the risks you faced during the Cold War?
I think they're very similar. I think that we are currently facing very powerful adversaries in Russia and China. You have a wild card in North Korea where nobody knows what that idiot would do. And if Iran had gotten a nuclear weapon, you would have had 4 major countries as nuclear powers that were adversarial to the democracies of the world. Yes, the military action is already escalating. They underestimated that Iran would attack all of their neighboring countries. But the long-term effects of what Iran is doing is creating a situation where all the neighboring countries are being forced to join together, and they are all looking to Israel, which is the major power today in the Middle East, for protections. So in the long run, I believe this is going to work out. But in the short run, it's going to become a wider war.
Looking back at your term as president, what specific achievements do you view as your most significant contribution to the country?
I think that I solved the economic situation in the country because the solution did not take place during my term, but for the next period of years, the United States prospered and the economy prospered and grew. Inflation came under control. And even though it did not take place under my administration, I think I laid the foundation for the country to prosper into the future. President Reagan did a good job running the country. I have to admit that. But I gave him the tools that he could use that would come in, that he could change the past and come into a period of prosperity. I don't think that I was ever given the credit for some of the things that I actually did accomplish, but the foundational work that I did, I think, is my greatest accomplishment.
What advice would you give future presidents about leading the country during difficult times?
I would tell them that they have to rely upon competent advisors. It is very important that you have the best military command structure, that you have individuals that will bring difference of opinions to the president. If the presidents only name advisors that will say the same thing that he believes, they're doing the country and him a disservice. Presidents need to have neutral advisors. They need to have individuals that will take both sides of an argument and present different viewpoints so that the president has what he needs to make the best decision available. That is the only thing that a president can truly have to help him. If any president has only yes men, the country is in big problems because compromise has to start to take place. The presidents have to compromise with Congress. If they do not work together, they will have only stalemates. The animosities today are staggering, and they make me very sad. I tried to work with the legislative body with both parties. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But it is only through a president being well informed on both sides of an argument and him having an ability to compromise with Congress that the future can be assured.
Has heaven lived up to your expectations?
Beyond. Heaven has been incredible. It took me a long time, many years to get here, but I always knew that death was going to not be something to be feared. And when the time came, I was welcomed. I saw my family members. It was everything that I believed it would be. and I can tell you it is more than you will ever comprehend. I considered myself a fairly bright person, and I was a true believer in God and the afterlife and heaven, but it far exceeds anything that I ever thought it would be. So I would reiterate that no one needs to fear their time of passing. I actually looked forward to it, but then I had many years of bad health. You have to do your best, but when you come home, you are going to be amazed.
Do you have a final message for us?
Yes. I want to thank you for allowing me to come through and speak. I hope that I gave you some clarity on my administration. And the information and clarity should give you guidance into where I made my mistakes and where I did things that were proper. The future is very difficult. Humans are at a tipping point and must make the proper decisions if they're going to exist far into the future. Time is not on the side of humans. The world today is a very, very dangerous place. Many countries now have weapons that can destroy humanity in total. Humans must learn love. They must learn to cooperate, and they must learn to understand one another. I got into trouble because I didn't truly understand the people of Iran. The citizens of all of the democracies in the future will get into many problems if they do not understand their neighbors, do not understand their enemies, and do not try to treat everyone as they want to be treated themselves. So thank you very, very much for allowing me to come through. I hope that my answers will bring some clarity, and I want you all to live a blessed life. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Wow. Good interview, Al. Very good. He was very truthful and a lot of clarity. I remember living through his administration. I never really understood it. So anyway, thank you so much. We always appreciate you coming through and helping us. We'll be back again next week. I know this was your idea to do the president this week, and I'm anxious to hear your idea for next week. But thank you so much, and goodbye, and we will talk again. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, I thought that was a really good interview. President Carter was truly a man of God, and he did what he thought was right. And that's all we can ask, really, of someone. So thank you so much. Please tell your neighbors, your friends, everyone about the show. We're going to bring this to you every week at 9 o'clock Eastern time on Friday nights. We're going to, as I say, we're going to try to focus on bringing you information. And I think that's what we did this week. So goodbye, and may you all truly have a blessed week.